Close your eyes now, dear traveller, and let your breathing slow like morning mist settling into a valley. Tonight, we walk together through landscapes where water whispers its secrets, where survival wisdom flows as gently as streams finding their ancient paths to the sea. Each breath you take is like rain returning to earth, each exhale a release of all tension, all worry, all the weight you've carried through your day. Picture yourself standing at the edge of a vast wilderness where the knowledge of finding water becomes poetry, written in dewdrops and carved in canyon stone. You are safe here in this moment, warm beneath your covers, as we explore together the sacred art of discovering life's most essential element. Let your muscles soften like clay, touched by spring rain. Your thoughts drift like clouds that know exactly where they're going without effort or force. The survival skills we'll discover tonight are more than techniques. They are conversations with the natural world, dialogues between human need and Earth's generous abundance. As you sink deeper into rest, imagine that each fact, each piece of wisdom is a smooth river stone you collect not in your hands, but in your dreams, where knowledge transforms into peace and learning becomes the gentlest lullaby. Breathe in, breathe out. Let us begin. Water makes up 60% of the human body, flowing through you like an internal ocean that sustains every cell, every thought, every heartbeat. Without water, survival becomes measured in days rather than weeks, making the skill of finding it perhaps the most crucial knowledge a wanderer can possess. In desert environments, you may have only 3 days before dehydration claims you, while in cooler climates, that window extends slightly. Understanding this urgency transforms how you see every landscape, turning ordinary terrain into a map written in moisture and possibility. Tonight, let this knowledge settle into you not as fear but as respect, the way a sailor respects the tides. The human body loses approximately 2 to 3 litres of water daily through breathing, sweating, and bodily functions, even without strenuous activity. In hot conditions or during physical exertion, this loss can double or triple, creating an invisible drain on your internal reserves that demands constant attention. Recognizing early dehydration symptoms, dry mouth, decreased urination, fatigue, dizziness, gives you crucial time to act before the situation becomes critical. Your body speaks in whispers before it screams, offering gentle warnings like a friend tapping your shoulder. Listen to these quiet signals as you would listen to your breath now, with patient awareness and without judgment. Morning dew can provide surprising amounts of drinkable water when collected systematically using absorbent cloth tied around your ankles or dragged through grass before sunrise. Walking through dew-covered vegetation soaks the fabric, which you then wring into a container, repeating this process until you've gathered enough to sustain you. Though labour-intensive, this method works in environments where standing water is absent, but humidity creates those precious droplets each dawn. Imagine this now, walking through silver grass as the world wakes, each step a meditation, each drop collected a small victory. Let this image carry you deeper into rest. Observing animal behaviour offers reliable clues to nearby water sources, as most mammals must drink regularly and will travel established paths to reach their watering holes. Following game trails, especially those converging from multiple directions, often leads to springs, streams, or pools that animals have used for generations. Look for tracks in soft earth, droppings along pathways, and the distinctive patterns worn into landscape by countless hooves and paws over time. Birds, particularly grain eaters like finches and pigeons, typically stay within reach of water and fly toward it during morning and evening hours. Watch where the creatures go and you'll find what you seek. Insects, especially bees and ants, remain close to water sources and create visible highways through vegetation as they travel between nest and drink. Following a bee's flight path during warmer parts of the day can lead you to water within a few miles, as these industrious creatures rarely venture far from hydration. Ants marching in steady lines often indicate moisture nearby, whether in the form of standing water or damp soil where you might dig successfully. Even mosquitoes and flies, despite being nuisances, signal that water exists close enough to support their breeding cycles. Nature speaks through its smallest citizens, offering guidance to those patient enough to observe. In mountainous terrain, water flows downward, following gravity's ancient pull, collecting in valleys, ravines, and low-lying areas where streams form and pools gather. Walking downhill when searching for water is not merely logical, but almost guaranteed to eventually bring you to some form of moisture, whether a trickle between rocks or a full creek bed. Listen for the sound of running water, which carries surprisingly far in quiet wilderness. That gentle rushing or trickling becomes a beacon more reliable than any compass. Let that sound echo in your mind now, a soothing white noise carrying you toward deeper sleep. Green vegetation in otherwise arid landscapes indicates underground water or recent rainfall that lingers in the soil, offering both hope and direction when you're searching. Palm trees, willows, cottonwoods, and sycamores are particularly reliable indicators, as their roots reach deep to tap into water tables that sustain them even through dry seasons. Where plants thrive, water exists, perhaps not on the surface, but somewhere beneath, accessible to those willing to dig or observe carefully. Even patches of unusually lush grass suggest moisture that differs from surrounding terrain. Read the landscape as you would read a book, where every plant is a sentence telling you where life-giving water hides. Rock formations and geology provide clues about water presence, with sedimentary rocks like limestone often containing springs and seeps where water emerges from underground aquifers. Look for dark staining on cliff faces, moss growth on stone surfaces, and areas where rock appears damp even during dry periods. Caves and overhangs frequently collect water through seepage, creating small drips that persist long after surface water has evaporated. Sometimes water hides in plain sight, waiting in the shadows, patient as stone itself. Approach these places with quiet reverence, knowing that earth gives what earth has held sacred. Digging in the outside bend of dry creek beds can reveal water that continues flowing underground even when surface flow has ceased during drought. These ancient channels remember water's path, and moisture often lingers beneath sand and gravel where the deepest part of the channel once ran. Dig down 2 to 3 feet in promising spots, then wait for the hole to fill as water seeps in from surrounding soil. This technique requires patience and effort, but rewards persistence with drinkable water when all surface sources have disappeared. Imagine your hands moving through cool sand, each scoop bringing you closer to that life-sustaining treasure. coastal areas offer the possibility of finding fresh water by digging above the high tide line, where rainwater collects in sand and forms a lens floating atop the denser salt water below. These freshwater lenses can be tapped by digging a hole and allowing it to fill, then carefully scooping from the top layer before it mixes with the brine beneath. Beach wells have sustained shipwreck survivors and coastal wanderers for centuries, offering potable water within sight of an ocean too salty to drink. Even at the edge of endless salt, fresh water waits for those who know where to look. Let your breathing deepen now, like roots growing down through soil toward hidden aquifers. Feel your body becoming heavier, more relaxed, as if you yourself are water finding its level, flowing into comfort without resistance. Each fact is a stepping stone across a peaceful river, and you move from one to the next with effortless grace. There is no urgency here, no test to pass, only the gentle accumulation of wisdom as you drift towards sleep. Collecting rainwater is the simplest and often safest method of obtaining drinking water in survival situations, requiring only a clean container or improvised collection system. Spread tarps, ponchos, or large leaves to catch rainfall, then funnel it into bottles or other vessels for storage and immediate consumption. Even your clothing can serve as a rain collector when stretched between supports to create a catchment surface. Rain falls as a gift from sky to earth, and you need only hold out your hands or your makeshift containers to receive it. Picture rain drumming on canvas now, that rhythmic pattering becoming the soundtrack of your descent into dreams. Solar stills can extract moisture from soil or plant material using nothing more than plastic sheeting, a container, and sunlight to create condensation. Dig a hole, place your collection container at the bottom, fill the surrounding space with vegetation or damp soil, then cover with plastic weighted down at the edges and depressed slightly in the center with a small stone. As the sun heats the enclosed space, water evaporates and condenses on the plastic, dripping down to the low point where it falls into your container. Though this produces relatively small amounts, perhaps a litre or two over a full day, it requires minimal effort once established and works even in environments where no standing water exists. Transpiration bags harness the natural process by which plants release moisture through their leaves, capturing this vapor before it dissipates into the atmosphere. Tie a clear plastic bag around a leafy branch, ensuring the bag slopes downward toward one corner where water will collect as condensation forms. Choose healthy, green branches in full sunlight for maximum production, and leave the bag in place for several hours or overnight to gather a surprisingly drinkable amount of water. This method is elegant in its simplicity, partnering with the plant's own life processes to meet your need without harming the tree or requiring tools beyond basic plastic sheeting. Snow and ice can be melted for drinking water, but consuming them directly in frozen form dangerously lowers your body temperature and uses precious energy for melting internally rather than externally. Always melt snow and ice before drinking, using fire if available, or even body heat in desperate circumstances, though the latter is inefficient and risks a hypothermia. Darker coloured snow or ice from lower layers often yields more water than fresh powder, which is mostly air. Remember that melting frozen water requires energy, either from fuel or from your own metabolism, so factor this cost into your survival calculations. Let the image of snow transforming from solid to liquid mirror your own transformation from waking to sleeping. Water from snow caves, ice formations, and glacial sources may seem pure, but can contain microscopic parasites or bacteria that survived freezing. So purification remains important even in frozen wilderness. Clear ice is generally safer than opaque or yellowish ice, which may contain sediment, algae, or other contaminants. Icebergs and glacial ice can be thousands of years old, storing ancient water in crystalline form, yet even this primordial source deserves treatment before drinking. Nothing is absolutely certain in wilderness survival. Caution serves you better than assumption. Moving water is generally safer than stagnant pools because the current provides oxygenation and makes it harder for certain parasites to establish breeding cycles. Fast-flowing streams, particularly those originating from high-altitude springs or snowmelt, often carry fewer pathogens than still ponds surrounded by vegetation. However, safer doesn't mean safe. All natural water sources should be purified before drinking, unless you face immediate life-threatening dehydration and have absolutely no other choice. Let the sound of a rushing stream fill your mind now, washing away any remaining tension, carrying your thoughts downstream toward the delta of dreams, filtering water through layers of sand, gravel, and cloth removes visible particles and some larger organisms, but doesn't eliminate microscopic bacteria, viruses, or chemical contaminants. Build a simple filter using a container with a small hole in the bottom, layering cloth, then charcoal from your fire, then fine sand, then coarse sand, then small pebbles. Pour water through this system multiple times for best results, understanding that filtration is only the first step. You'll still need to boil or chemically treat the filtered water for true safety. This layered approach mirrors how Earth itself filters water through geological strata over decades and centuries. Boiling water for 1 minute at sea level or 3 minutes at higher altitudes kills virtually all pathogens, including bacteria, viruses, and parasites that cause waterborne illnesses. This is the most reliable purification method when you have fire and a heat-safe container, requiring no chemicals or special equipment. The rolling boil is key, not just heating water until it steams, but maintaining vigorous bubbling that ensures all portions reach lethal temperature for microorganisms. Let those bubbles rise and burst in your imagination, like thoughts dissolving as you sink into rest. Chemical purification using iodine tablets or chlorine dioxide drops provides an alternative when boiling isn't possible, killing most waterborne pathogens within 30 minutes of treatment. Follow package directions carefully regarding dosage and wait time, as these vary by product and water temperature. Colder water requires longer treatment periods. Some chemical purifiers leave an unpleasant taste, which can be masked with powdered drink mixes or neutralized with vitamin C after the required treatment time. These tiny tablets carry enormous power, transforming questionable water into something safe enough to sustain life. UV light purifiers use ultraviolet radiation to destroy the DNA of microorganisms, rendering them unable to reproduce and cause infection in your digestive system. These battery-powered or crank-operated devices work quickly, often in 90 seconds or less, and add nothing to water's taste, making them popular among hikers and travelers. However, water must be relatively clear for UV to penetrate effectively, so pre-filtering murky water improves results. Technology meets wilderness in these small devices, bringing space-age solutions to ancient survival challenges. Your eyelids are growing heavier now, like clouds full of rain, ready to release their burden and drift away lighter. Notice how your body has melted into your bed, how the boundaries between yourself and comfort have blurred. Each word is a gentle wave lapping at the shore of consciousness, and you float peacefully on these sounds, these rhythms, these whispers of survival wisdom that ask nothing of you except to receive them and rest. Clear running water from mountain springs or high altitude sources is often the cleanest natural water you'll find, as it has had less opportunity to contact contaminants or serve as a home for parasites. Springs bubbling directly from rock, particularly at elevations above where animals commonly graze, offer your best chance at finding water that approaches drinkability without treatment. Still, treat even spring water when possible, as invisible threats may lurk despite the crystalline appearance and sweet taste. The clearest water can hold the smallest dangers, reminding us that beauty and safety don't always coincide. Muddy or turbid water should be allowed to settle before purification, letting gravity pull suspended particles to the bottom of your container over several hours. Pour or scoop the clearer water from the top carefully, leaving the sediment undisturbed, then proceed with filtration and purification of this partially clarified liquid. Coffee filters, bandanas, or even your shirt can serve as pre-filters to remove the largest particles before you employ more sophisticated purification methods. Patience serves you well here. Rushing leads to drinking grit and sand that tax your digestive system unnecessarily. Let settling happen in its own time, like worries setting out of your mind as sleep approaches. Desert water sources often hide in unexpected places, including the shaded undersides of rocks where morning condensation collects, or in depressions that capture rare rainfall and hold it longer than exposed ground. Barrel cacti contain moisture, but not drinkable water in the way movies suggest. The liquid inside is alkaline and can cause vomiting and diarrhea, worsening your dehydration rather than helping it. Instead, look for prickly pear cactus fruits, which contain edible moisture, or slice open certain barrel cactus to access the inner pulp, which can be chewed to extract some hydration as a last resort. The desert keeps its secrets well, revealing them only to careful observers. Canyons and slot canyons frequently contain water pockets called tinajas, natural basins carved into rock that capture and hold rainwater for weeks or even months after storms. These hidden reservoirs sustain desert wildlife and can save human lives when discovered, though they may harbour bacteria from animal visitors who also depend on these rare sources. Lower tinajas in a series are often safer than higher ones, as water flowing from pool to pool dilutes contaminants and the freshest water settles at the bottom of the chain. Approach these desert jewels with gratitude, knowing countless creatures have drunk from these same stone cups across millennia. Vines in tropical environments can provide emergency water if you know which species are safe and how to harvest them correctly. Cut a notch high on the vine first, then make a second cut lower down, allowing water to drain from the section between cuts into your mouth or container. Not all vines are safe, some contain toxic sap, so if the liquid is milky, coloured or bitter, discard it immediately and try a different source. Clear, odourless water flowing from a vine can provide significant hydration, sometimes a litre or more from a single thick vine. Nature's plumbing system runs through the jungle canopy, waiting for those who understand its patterns. Bamboo segments sometimes contain clean water trapped between the hollow sections of the stalk, accessible by cutting or drilling into the chambers. Shake bamboo before cutting. If you hear sloshing, water waits inside. Though not all bamboo species store water, and some chambers may be dry. Green. Living bamboo is more likely to contain moisture than dead, dried stalks. This water is generally safer than standing pools, having been protected inside the plant's sealed compartments from external contamination. Each bamboo section becomes a natural canteen designed by evolution to store exactly what you need. Roots of certain plants, including water trees in Australia and various tropical species, can be dug up and sections cut or mashed to release drinkable moisture. These plants evolved to store water as a survival mechanism during dry seasons, and that same adaptation can sustain human life when tapped respectfully. Learning to identify these species before you need them is crucial, as digging randomly wastes energy and may damage ecosystems without yielding results. Knowledge transforms roots from obstacles to lifelines, from things you trip over to resources you seek out. Birch trees can be tapped for sap in early spring, providing a slightly sweet, hydrating liquid that flows when you drill or cut through the bark into the sapwood layer. Insert a tube or hollow reed into the hole and direct the dripping sap into a container, collecting what can amount to several litres per day from a healthy tree. This traditional practice has sustained northern peoples for generations, though it should be done carefully to avoid permanently harming the tree. Seal the hole with mud or a plug when you've gathered enough. The tree's gift flows like maple syrup's cousin, less sweet but equally generous, offered with the patient kindness of old growth forests. Maple trees similarly offer drinkable sap when tapped, and while spring is the traditional season, some flow can be obtained at other times depending on weather and temperature fluctuations. The clear sap contains natural sugars and minerals along with water, providing not just hydration, but modest caloric value as well. Indigenous peoples and early settlers relied on this resource when wells froze and streams ran dry, understanding that trees pump water upward from deep roots toward branches reaching for sky. What flows through a tree flows through you, connecting underground to atmosphere in an unbroken cycle. Palm trees in tropical and subtropical regions can sometimes be felled and the crown harvested for the liquid stored in the growing heart of the palm. This is a destructive method that kills the tree, so it should only be employed in genuine survival emergencies when no other water source exists. The liquid tastes mildly sweet and provides significant hydration, though the effort required to fell a palm and extract its heart is substantial. Survival sometimes demands difficult choices, taking from nature what we need while carrying the weight of that necessity with awareness and respect. Let your jaw relax completely, your tongue resting soft in your mouth like a stone at the bottom of a peaceful pool. Feel your shoulders dropping away from your ears, your hands uncurling, your legs becoming so heavy they seem to sink through the mattress. The information flows over you and through you without requiring anything but your gentle, passive awareness. You are learning through osmosis now, through surrender, through the simple act of listening while you drift. Coconuts provide both water and nutrition, with young green coconuts containing more liquid than mature brown ones, whose interior has solidified into meat. The water inside is sterile until the coconut is opened, making it one of nature's safest hydration sources that requires no purification beyond accessing it. Crack or drill through the soft eye at one end of the shell, or smash the coconut against a rock to break it open and access the refreshing liquid inside. Coconut water contains electrolytes that help your body retain hydration more effectively than plain water alone. Islands have survived on coconuts, and you can too. Water vines in rainforests, distinct from decorative houseplant varieties, can be identified by their thick, rope-like appearance and the clear liquid they release when cut properly. These vines grow towards sunlight, climbing trees to reach the canopy, and their internal structure functions like a straw, drawing water from soil to leaves. Testing a small amount before drinking larger quantities protects you from potentially toxic species, and the clear colour and neutral taste confirms safety. The jungle offers liquid veins running vertically through the green chaos, bearing gifts to those trained to recognise them. Rock crevices and depressions often collect rainwater and retain it long after surrounding areas have dried, creating microhabitats for moisture-dependent life. Look for dark staining, moss growth, or small ferns that indicate persistent dampness even during dry periods. Sometimes you can soak up this water using cloth and wring it into a container, or carefully bail it out with a cup improvised from bark or leaves. These tiny ecosystems demonstrate how water finds every available niche, every crack and shadow where it can hide from the evaporating sun. Persistence finds what casual observation misses. Following drainage patterns, the natural channels where water flows during rain leads downward toward larger water bodies, or at least to places where water lingers longest after precipitation. These depressions in landscape tell the story of past flows, predicting where future water will travel when it next falls from the sky. Even in deserts, knowing where water would go if it fell guides you toward the lowest points where any moisture accumulates and persists. Gravity is water's master, and understanding this relationship makes you a better student of hydration geography. Dry lake beds and playas sometimes conceal water beneath their cracked, hardened surfaces, accessible by digging in the lowest central area where the last puddles evaporated. The soil below may remain damp or even muddy, and deeper digging can reveal actual pooled water that survived evaporation by hiding under an insulating layer of dried earth. This requires patience and significant effort, but the payoff can be substantial when surface water is completely absent. What looks barren may simply be sleeping, waiting for rain or for someone desperate enough to dig deep. Swamps and marshes contain abundant water, but it's often contaminated with organic material, bacteria, and parasites that make it among the riskiest natural sources to drink. Filter swamp water through multiple layers of cloth and sand, then boil it vigorously for at least 3 minutes before consuming. The standing water and decaying vegetation create perfect breeding grounds for pathogens, so extra precautions are warranted. Beauty and bounty don't always mean safety. Sometimes the richest ecosystems are the most dangerous to drink from. Respect the swamp's complexity, while treating its water with maximum caution. Fog can be harvested using large vertical surfaces like tarps or screens positioned perpendicular to prevailing winds in areas where fog regularly forms. Water droplets condense on the surface and trickle downward, where they can be collected in channels or containers at the bottom edge. Coastal areas, high altitude locations, and certain valleys experience reliable fog that can be transformed into drinkable water through this simple technique. Some communities use massive fog catching nets to supply entire villages, proving that even air can be milked for moisture when you understand the physics of condensation. Early morning is the best time to search for water in many environments, as dew formation peaks just before dawn, and animals visit watering holes during cooler hours. The low-angle sunlight also illuminates water surfaces, making them easier to spot from a distance, and the stillness of morning air allows you to hear running water more clearly. Beginning your search at first light maximizes your chances while conserving energy that would be wasted in midday heat. The world reveals its secrets most generously at its quietest moments, when darkness yields to light. Limestone and karst topography often feature springs, sinkholes, and underground rivers accessible through careful exploration of caves and geological formations. Water dissolves limestone over geological time, creating extensive cave systems where underground streams flow year-round regardless of surface drought. Entering caves requires caution and ideally some experience, but the entrances often feature seeps and springs that provide access to this hidden hydrology without deep penetration. Earth's memory is long, and water remembers ancient paths through stone. Salt water can be desalinated through evaporation and condensation if you have materials to build up. Still, though this is labor intensive and produces relatively small amounts of fresh water, solar stills designed specifically for seawater use the sun's heat to evaporate pure water vapor, leaving salt and minerals behind, then condense that vapor on a cooler surface where it drips into a collection container. This same principle powers massive industrial desalination plants, scaled down to survival size for individual use. Transforming the undrinkable into the drinkable feels almost alchemical, turning brine into life. Notice how thoughts are becoming harder to hold on to now, slipping away like water through open fingers. Your mind grows quiet as a still pond at twilight, reflective and calm, mirroring stars without rippling. The boundary between waking and sleeping blurs like fog rolling across a meadow. You are safe, you are comfortable, you are exactly where you need to be. Let the words continue washing over you as you sink deeper into rest. Urine recycling through distillation is theoretically possible in desperate survival situations, but practically difficult without proper equipment and fuel for sustained heating. The health risks and psychological barriers make this a last resort option to be avoided if any alternative exists. Understanding this option exists in the most extreme scenarios provides psychological comfort, even if you never need to employ it. Some knowledge serves primarily as a safety net, catching you only in the worst possible falls. Morning frost can be collected from vegetation and surfaces just as dew is, providing another form of atmospheric moisture accessible without finding standing water. Scrape frost into a container and melt it in sunlight or near fire, treating the resulting liquid as you would any natural water source. Frost formation requires clear skies and temperature drops, so it appears most reliably during specific weather patterns rather than daily. Each crystal is a tiny reservoir, and thousands together create a drinkable volume for those willing to gather them patiently. Water-bearing vegetation like aloe vera, agave, and certain succulents store moisture in their thick leaves and can be broken open to access the gel-like interior. This substance can be eaten directly or squeezed to extract liquid, though some species contain compounds that cause digestive upset if consumed in large quantities. Know your plants before relying on them, or test small amounts, and wait to see if adverse reactions occur before consuming more. Evolution designed these plants to hoard moisture, and in survival situations, their stinginess becomes your salvation. Human breast milk can provide hydration for nursing infants even when the mother is mildly dehydrated, though mothers should still seek water to maintain their own health and milk production. This biological priority system ensures offspring survival, with the mother's body protecting the baby's hydration even at cost to her own comfort. Understanding this can inform decision-making when rationing limited water among family members in survival situations. The body knows what to protect first, following priorities written into our biology across millions of years. Tree hollows and natural cavities sometimes collect rainwater and hold it for extended periods, creating tiny aerial ponds in the forest canopy or at ground level. Check these carefully before drinking, as they may also harbour insects, larvae, or animal droppings that contaminate the stored water. Filter and purify as you would any natural source, appreciating these natural containers while respecting the life they support. Trees offer shelter, and sometimes they offer drink as well, their woody arms cradling water like precious gifts. Clay soil can be used to filter water through a process similar to sand and gravel filtration, with the fine particles trapping impurities as liquid passes through. Create layers of increasingly fine material, with clay as your final filter layer, understanding that this removes only visible contamination and particulates, not microscopic pathogens. The ancient practice of storing water in clay vessels relied partly on this filtering property, as some contaminants adhered to the pottery walls. What is old becomes new when you're stripped of modern conveniences. Rainwater from roof runoff should be allowed to flow for a few minutes before collection begins, as the initial water washes away accumulated dust, bird droppings, and other surface contaminants. The water that follows is cleaner, having benefited from this initial flushing of the collection surface. Even with this precaution, roofed rainwater should be purified before drinking, especially if the roof material contains chemicals or has been contaminated by animals. The first flush cleans the way for safer harvest, a principle applicable to many aspects of survival. Flowing water in streams appears oxygenated and fresh, but this doesn't protect against parasites, like Giardia, that cause severe gastrointestinal distress days after consumption. The crystal clear mountain stream is one of wilderness survival's most dangerous illusions, luring hikers to drink without purification because beauty suggests purity. Always treat flowing water unless death from dehydration is imminent, and treatment is genuinely impossible. Appearances deceive. Microorganisms care nothing for aesthetics. Underground water accessed through digging or wells is often cooler and clearer than surface water, having been naturally filtered through layers of soil and rock. However, depth doesn't guarantee safety. Contamination can still occur through aquifer pollution, animal burrows, or surface water seeping downward through porous soil. Test well water and purify when possible, even though the extra effort feels redundant when the water looks pristine. The earth is a filter, but not a perfect one, and modern contaminants sometimes travel where ancient water flows. Condensation from air conditioning units, dehumidifiers, or vehicle exhaust systems provides technically drinkable water in certain survival scenarios, though it may contain metal residues from the equipment. This water has been distilled through condensation, making it microbiologically safe but potentially contaminated with whatever materials it contacted in the collection system. Filter through cloth and boil if possible, or use as a last resort when truly no other options exist. Modern machinery creates accidental wells, sweating moisture from processed air. Your breathing has become so slow and deep now, each inhale lasting 4 heartbeats, each exhale lasting 6. Feel your chest rising and falling like gentle tides, like waves on a shore so distant and peaceful, you can barely remember why you were ever anywhere else. The facts continue flowing, but they no longer require your active attention. They settle into your subconscious like sediment, drifting down through water columns, finding their natural resting place while you simply float. Puddles should be approached with skepticism, as standing water in depressions collects not just rain, but also contaminants from everything that washes into them. Animals drink and urinate here. Bacteria multiply in the still environment, and organic material decays, creating a concentrated soup of potential pathogens. That said, in true emergencies, even puddle water can be life-saving if properly filtered and boiled. Prioritize cleaner sources, but remember that death from dehydration is certain, while death from waterborne illness is merely probable and treatable. Water from air conditioners and refrigerators accumulates as these appliances extract humidity from the air during their cooling cycles, creating a surprisingly reliable source in hot, humid climates. Check the drip pans and drainage lines regularly, collecting what amounts to distilled water that has condensed from atmospheric moisture. While cleaner than many natural sources, this water may contain traces of metals from the equipment or airborne contaminants, so filtration through cloth remains advisable. Modern appliances become water generators when viewed through the lens of survival, transforming electricity into liquid life. Plastic bottles left in the sun can be used for solar water disinfection, a method called SODIS that uses UV radiation to kill pathogens over several hours of exposure. Fill clear plastic bottles with filtered water, shake them to oxygenate, then place them in direct sunlight for at least 6 hours on a sunny day, or 2 days if cloudy. The UV rays penetrate the water and damage the DNA of bacteria, viruses, and parasites, rendering them harmless. This method requires no fuel, no chemicals, only patience and sunlight, 2 resources often abundant even when others are scarce. Let the sun do what fire would do, slowly and thoroughly. Seepage springs emerge, where underground water meets an impermeable rock layer and is forced to the surface, creating wet patches or steady drips on hillsides and cliff faces. These springs often support unique plant communities that signal their presence from a distance. Look for ferns, moss, and unusually green vegetation in otherwise dry terrain. The water from seepage springs has been naturally filtered through geological strata, and is often among the cleanest sources you'll find, though purification remains wise. Earth delivers water through stone pores, squeezing it upward like a sponge pressed gently but persistently. Water pockets in tree trunks, especially in species with naturally hollow centres or where branches are broken away, collect rainwater and hold it for days or weeks after storms. Check these carefully with a stick or by looking before reaching in, as insects, spiders, or even small animals may have claimed these tiny reservoirs as home. The water may appear murky with decomposing leaves, but can be filtered and purified into drinkable liquid. Trees become living cisterns, their wounds and hollows transformed into gifts for thirsty wanderers. Animal urine in snow sometimes creates yellow stains that novice survivors might avoid when collecting snow for melting, but the surrounding clean snow remains perfectly viable. The contaminated area is typically small and easily identified, allowing you to collect from pristine sections nearby without concern. Animals mark territory and relieve themselves, but wilderness is vast, and most snow remains untouched by mammalian waste. Don't let visible contamination in one spot prevent you from harvesting clean snow from the broader fields surrounding it. Discernment serves better than blanket rejection. Waterfalls generate negative ions and spray that can be collected on tarps or clothing positioned in the mist zone, providing a supplementary water source beyond the main flow. The mist contains droplets of the same water tumbling over the falls, suspended briefly in air before gravity reclaims them. While you wouldn't rely solely on mist collection, it can supplement other methods and serves as a reminder that water exists in multiple states and positions simultaneously. The falling water sings its availability, calling to those who need it most. Seasonal streams and washes that flow only during rainy periods can still provide water long after visible flow ceases, with moisture persisting underground in the sandy or gravelly bed. Dig down in the deepest parts of the channel, especially at outside bends where water would have pooled when flowing, and wait for seepage to fill your hole. This technique has saved countless desert travellers who understood that absence of surface water doesn't mean absence of all water. The stream remembers its path underground, continuing its journey beneath the sand. Water caught in the angles where large leaves meet stems can accumulate surprisingly large volumes, especially in tropical plants with broad foliage designed to channel rain toward roots. Carefully tip or drain these natural cups into your container, avoiding the insects that also seek these tiny pools for drinking and breeding. Some plants evolved these collection points specifically to trap water and nutrients, and their efficiency can serve human needs in emergencies. Nature's architecture includes built-in vessels, waiting to be discovered by observant eyes. Ice on the surface of frozen lakes and ponds is generally safer than water from the same source during warmer months, as freezing kills many pathogens, and the solid state prevents ongoing biological activity. However, some organisms survive freezing in dormant states and reactivate when ice melts, so purification remains important even with frozen sources. Clear ice without bubbles or visible inclusions is preferable to cloudy or discoloured ice that may contain trapped sediment or organic material. Winter transforms water into crystal, but the transformation doesn't guarantee purity, only a different form of the same essential element. Humidity can be extracted from air even in the absence of fog or dew, through improvised atmospheric water generators, though these require significant temperature differentials to function. Burying a container overnight with a condensation surface suspended above it can capture moisture as air cools, though yields are typically minimal unless humidity is very high. This method rarely produces enough water for full hydration, but can supplement other sources or provide emergency moisture when nothing else is available. The air itself carries water, invisible until the right conditions reveal it. Your body feels weightless now, floating on darkness as gentle as a summer lake at midnight. Thoughts drift past like clouds too high to catch, too distant to trouble you. The words continue their pattern, their rhythm, but you're no longer listening with effort. They simply exist around you, through you, requiring nothing but your peaceful presence. Sleep comes closer with each breath, wrapping around you like fog, like mist, like the very water we've been seeking together. River bends create different conditions on inside versus outside curves, with the outside bend typically deeper and faster, while the inside bend is shallower with more sediment. For water collection, the outside bend often provides clearer water with less mud, though both require purification. Understanding river hydraulics helps you choose collection points that minimize sediment intake and make purification easier. Water follows physics, carving its path through landscape according to laws older than consciousness itself. Evaporation rates vary dramatically based on temperature, humidity, wind, and sun exposure, affecting how you should store and protect collected water. In hot, dry conditions, cover containers to prevent rapid water loss through evaporation, which can be surprisingly substantial over hours or days. What you collect means nothing if it disappears back into the atmosphere before you can drink it. Conservation begins immediately upon collection, treating gathered water as the precious resource it truly is. Every drop saved is a drop earned. Artesian wells occur where underground pressure forces water to the surface without pumping, creating springs that flow continuously from natural geological pressure. Finding such wells in wilderness is rare but possible, often marked by unusual vegetation or historical knowledge of the land. These sources provide excellent water quality, filtered through deep geological strata and pressurized by weight of overlying rock formations. The Earth's own plumbing sometimes needs no human intervention, delivering water upward through stone arteries that never rest. Water temperature can indicate source quality, with very cold water suggesting recent snowmelt or deep springs, while warm water indicates surface sources or stagnant pools. Temperature alone doesn't determine safety, but it provides clues about the water's journey and residence time. Cold, fast-flowing streams originating from high elevations generally present lower risk than warm, slow creeks winding through lowland valleys. Trust your senses as initial assessments, then verify with purification regardless of what those senses suggest. Tidal pools along rocky coastlines trap seawater during high tide, but may also capture rainwater that floats atop the denser salt water. Carefully taste the surface layer. If it's fresh or only slightly brackish, it can be collected before the tides return. This requires timing and observation, understanding tidal patterns and rainfall in your location. The ocean's rhythm creates opportunities, brief windows where fresh water rests on salt before mixing occurs. Nature's salad dressing temporarily separates. waiting for those quick enough to harvest the top layer. Groundwater contamination from industrial sources, agricultural runoff, or natural minerals can make even deep wells unsafe without testing and treatment. In survival situations, you lack laboratory resources to identify chemical contaminants, so judgment comes down to necessity versus risk. Clear, odorless, tasteless water might still contain heavy metals or industrial chemicals, but when facing immediate dehydration, these long-term risks become acceptable compared to certain short-term death. Survival requires constant calculation of competing dangers, choosing the lesser threat when no perfect option exists. Wetland areas support incredible biodiversity and often hold water year-round, but this biological richness means high contamination potential from the countless organisms living, dying, and reproducing there. Treat wetland water as you would swamp water, multiple filtrations followed by vigorous boiling or chemical treatment. The interconnection of life in these ecosystems is beautiful, but creates a microbial soup that human digestive systems aren't designed to handle without purification. Life begets life, but also begets bacteria, parasites, and protozoa that care nothing for your well-being. Water discipline means rationing not just through restriction, but through efficient use. Washing in stages with minimal water, cooking methods that conserve moisture, and timing water consumption for maximum benefit. Drink when you need it, rather than hoarding it for hypothetical future need, as dehydration impairs judgment and physical capability immediately. Balance present needs against future uncertainty, understanding that your body is the best container for water when you are actively surviving. What's inside you is secure. What's in your bottle might spill, evaporate, or be lost. Container choice affects water safety and longevity, with metal containers potentially imparting flavors and some plastics leaching chemicals, especially when heated. Glass is ideal but fragile. Food-grade plastic is practical but requires protection from UV degradation. In survival situations, you work with whatever containers you can improvise: bark vessels, bamboo segments, hollowed gourds, animal bladders, or even large leaves folded and pinned. Adaptation matters more than optimization when your life depends on simply having some vessel to hold what you've gathered. Snow quality varies by age and location, with fresh snow being mostly air and yielding little water, while older, denser snow provides more liquid per volume. Collect snow from windward slopes where it accumulates deeply, avoiding areas near animal tracks or visible discoloration. Pack snow tightly into containers before melting to maximize yield and efficiency. Understanding snow's properties transforms it from obstacle to resource, from cold burden to potential salvation. Winter's gift requires knowledge to unwrap properly. Let go of any remaining thoughts about tomorrow, about yesterday, about anything beyond this exact moment. Your only task now is breathing, and even that happens automatically, without your conscious direction. Feel yourself dissolving into comfort, boundaries softening between body and bed, self and sleep. The information continues flowing, but you've already absorbed what you need, already learned what your subconscious will retain and offer back when necessity calls for it. Cross-contamination from cooking vessels or unclean hands can recontaminate purified water, making handling protocols as important as purification methods themselves. Wash hands before handling drinking water. Use dedicated clean containers for purified water, separate from collection vessels, and avoid touching the inside of containers or drinking surfaces. These simple hygiene practices prevent undoing all your purification efforts through careless handling. Cleanliness is a practice, not a one-time event, requiring constant mindfulness when survival margins are thin. Lightning storms can temporarily increase atmospheric ozone and ionization, though this has no significant effect on water safety beyond the obvious danger of being struck while near water bodies. The real risk is flash flooding in arroyos and drainage channels, where peaceful dry washes become raging torrents within minutes of distant rainfall. Never camp in these low areas during storm season, and never assume a dry creek bed will remain dry overnight. Water's power in concentrated flow exceeds almost any other natural force you'll encounter. Permafrost, when melted, can provide water, but has been frozen for potentially thousands of years, sometimes containing ancient bacteria or viruses that survive in ice. The risk is primarily theoretical, as most ancient microorganisms are harmless to humans or dead, but the principle remains: purify even what seems impossibly pure through isolation. Time doesn't sterilize, freezing merely pauses the microscopic clock. Modern microbes are challenge enough without reviving prehistoric ones. Water witching or dowsing, the practice of using rods or pendulums to find underground water, lacks scientific validation but remains practiced in some rural areas and survival communities. Whether it works through subtle geological observation, electromagnetic sensitivity, or sheer chance remains debated. But desperate situations sometimes make use of any method, proven or not. Skepticism serves science, pragmatism serves survival. The two don't always align, and that's acceptable when your life hangs in the balance. Thermal springs provide naturally heated water that may be mineral rich and sometimes drinkable, though temperatures can range from pleasantly warm to lethally boiling. Test temperature carefully before collecting, and be aware that dissolved minerals like sulfur, salt, or heavy metals may make thermal water unpalatable or unsafe despite being sterile from heat. These geological features mark places where Earth's interior heat reaches the surface, creating unique ecosystems and sometimes hazardous chemistry. Beauty and danger mix in these steaming pools like nowhere else in nature. Water caching, hiding stored water along planned routes for future retrieval, has saved countless lives in predictable survival scenarios like desert crossings or long expeditions. Bury containers to protect from sun and evaporation. Mark locations carefully with GPS or landmarks, and factor in the possibility that containers might be damaged or discovered by animals. This forward planning transforms future desperation into future relief, assuming your caches remain intact and findable. Planning is survival's greatest multiplier, turning preparation into preservation of life. Alkaline water from desert sources or certain geological formations may have pH levels that cause digestive upset if you're unaccustomed to it. So water remains safe from a pathogen standpoint, but tastes soapy or bitter and can cause mild diarrhea, which worsens dehydration through fluid loss. When it's your only option, drink it anyway, but in smaller, more frequent amounts rather than large gulps that might trigger digestive rebellion. Your body can adapt to almost anything given time. Survival rarely offers that luxury, so gentle introduction to new water sources helps when possible. Flash floods in slot canyons demonstrate water's terrifying power when concentrated into narrow channels, with walls of water appearing within seconds of distant rainfall. The danger zone extends miles downstream from actual precipitation, meaning blue skies overhead offer no protection from upstream storms. This scenario kills experienced hikers regularly, a reminder that understanding water means understanding its darker manifestations too. Respect keeps you alive longer than knowledge alone ever could. Water from melting permafrost in Arctic regions sometimes reveals ancient organic matter that has been frozen for millennia, creating a distinctive musty or earthy taste in the resulting liquid. While unusual tasting, this water is generally safe after boiling, as the organic compounds are not typically harmful, merely unexpected to modern palates. The Arctic preserves history in its ice, and drinking its melt connects you to an unimaginably distant past. What was frozen when mammoths walked now flows through your contemporary survival, bridging eras through basic necessity. Saline lakes and salt flats occasionally have freshwater springs feeding them from below, creating zones where potable water can be found despite the surrounding brine. Look for areas of unusual vegetation, or where birds and animals congregate, as these creatures have located the fresh sources within the salt. Dig near these indicators and test the water carefully. It may be brackish rather than pure fresh, but significantly more drinkable than the saline surface water surrounding it. Life finds the exceptions, and observing life leads you to what sustains it. Icicles forming on rock faces or tree branches represent frozen meltwater and can be collected and melted for drinking, though their small size makes gathering them tedious. Break them free carefully to avoid contaminating the clean ice with dirt or debris from the surface they clung to. Like harvesting frost, this method requires patience but provides genuinely clean water source, especially icicles hanging freely in air rather than touching ground or vegetation. Winter decorates the world with drinkable ornaments, hanging like crystal promises of hydration. Water storage in survival situations extends beyond finding containers to preventing contamination during storage, covering openings, keeping vessels in shade, and avoiding storage near toxic plants or chemical sources. Even purified water can become contaminated if stored improperly, especially in warm conditions where bacterial growth accelerates. Treat stored water as carefully as you treat the collection and purification process, understanding that one careless moment can waste hours of effort. The chain of safety has many links. Neglecting any one of them breaks the whole. Underground caverns sometimes contain lakes or flowing streams, accessible through cave entrances or sinkholes, providing year-round water sources even during severe surface drought. Cave water often maintains constant cool temperature and may be among the cleanest sources available, filtered through extensive limestone layers. However, cave exploration carries serious risks: disorientation, unstable rock, sudden flooding. So surface springs emerging from cave systems offer safer access to the same water. The Earth's hollow places hold liquid treasure, but extracting it requires caution proportional to the darkness you must enter. Quicksand forms where water saturates sand to the point that surface tension disappears, and the mixture behaves like liquid rather than solid ground. While rarely as dangerous as movies suggest, you'll sink to waist or chest level, not disappear completely. quicksand indicates high water table and nearby accessible water if you dig in safer adjacent areas. The presence of quicksand is itself a sign of abundant underground moisture waiting to be tapped. What endangers also indicates, and careful interpretation of landscape features turns threats into clues. Water from vehicle radiators contains antifreeze and other toxic chemicals and should never be consumed except in the most extreme life or death scenarios where no alternative exists whatsoever. Even then, the poisoning risk is substantial, and you're trading immediate dehydration for potential kidney failure and other systemic damage. This option exists only in the most theoretical survival discussions. In practice, nearly any other source, including urine distillation, is preferable. Some knowledge exists as boundary markers showing where desperation ends and deadly folly begins. Monsoon seasons in various climates provide predictable rainfall patterns that can be anticipated and prepared for, allowing you to position collection systems before storms arrive. Learning regional weather patterns transforms random luck into calculated preparation, letting you harvest seasonal abundance rather than hoping for random rainfall. Indigenous peoples worldwide structured their movements and settlements around these patterns, understanding that water comes in rhythms, not randomly. Dance with the seasons rather than fighting against them, and survival becomes flow rather than struggle. Desert playas and salt flats occasionally flood during rare rain events, creating temporary shallow lakes that evaporate quickly under intense sun. While present, these ephemeral water bodies provide drinking water if collected and purified before sediment saturates them or evaporation concentrates dissolved minerals. Time is critical. What exists in morning may be gone by afternoon, transformed back into cracked earth and disappointed mirages. Opportunity visits the desert briefly, and recognizing it requires attention to subtle changes in light, wind, and the behavior of opportunistic wildlife. Fog drip systems designed for vehicle windshields can be repurposed in survival situations, using the mesh or screen to catch water droplets from passing fog banks. Position these perpendicular to prevailing wind, creating maximum surface area for droplets to impact and coalesce. This passive collection method requires no energy beyond initial setup and can produce surprising quantities in fog-prone areas. Let wind and weather do the work while you rest or attend to other survival priorities. Efficiency in survival means working smart, not just hard. Your breathing has become so subtle now, so quiet that you barely notice it, yet it continues perfectly, nourishing every cell, releasing what no longer serves. Feel how your mind is emptied like a cup turned over, all thoughts draining away, leaving only space, only peace, only the gentle rhythm of words that ask nothing except that you rest. You are so deeply relaxed that moving seems impossible, unnecessary, a concept from another world entirely. Water discipline in rationing means understanding that your body needs water to process food. So eating without adequate hydration is counterproductive and wastes precious moisture. In scarcity situations, reduce food intake rather than drink less, as you can survive weeks without eating but only days without water. This counterintuitive approach, choosing thirst over hunger, reflects the mathematical reality of human metabolism and survival priorities. The body forgives hunger more readily than it forgives thirst. Evolution made this choice millions of years ago, and your biology still obeys that ancient hierarchy. Condensation inside tents, vehicles, or shelters can be collected by wiping surfaces in early morning before the sun evaporates it, yielding surprising amounts of moisture. This is essentially harvested humidity, water vapor from your own breathing, and the air that has condensed on cooler surfaces overnight. While it seems strange to drink what you exhaled, this is simply recycling, turning waste breath into usable liquid. Every source matters when sources are scarce, and false pride about water's origin serves no survival purpose. Water absorbed by moss can be squeezed out into containers, though the yield is modest and the moss must be living and recently hydrated to produce much liquid. This method damages the moss ecosystem but may be justified in genuine emergencies when no other option exists. Ecological impact calculations shift dramatically when your own life hangs in the balance, though awareness of that impact should persist even as necessity overrides it. Take what you need. Waste nothing. Acknowledge the cost. Tarpaulin systems for rainwater collection can be enhanced by creating a slight sag in the centre, allowing water to pool rather than run off the edges immediately. Anchor the corners higher than the centre, creating a basin that maximizes collection before channeling water into storage containers. This simple geometry multiplies effectiveness, turning a flat surface into a concave collector that captures and holds rather than merely redirecting. Understanding physics improves every survival technique, transforming basic knowledge into amplified results. Water bells or drip irrigation systems in gardens demonstrate that water can be stored and released slowly, a principle applicable to personal hydration strategies. Instead of gulping large amounts that your body partially wastes through urination, sip small amounts regularly to maintain consistent hydration. Your body absorbs more efficiently from steady intake than from overwhelming it with volume it cannot process quickly. Gentleness extends to self-care, meeting your needs with patience rather than desperation. Frost hollows, low-lying areas where cold air pools and frost forms even when surrounding areas remain frost-free, indicate microclimates that might affect water availability. These spots may hold morning frost longer, providing extended collection windows, or they may indicate poor drainage and potential water accumulation underground. Reading landscape requires attention to subtlety, to the micro-scale variations that reveal larger patterns. The Earth writes its autobiography in temperature gradients and moisture retention, and learning its language opens countless survival insights. Water contamination from decomposing animal carcasses upstream represents one of the most dangerous scenarios, as bacteria and toxins from decay spread widely through flowing water. If you discover a carcass near your water source, move upstream beyond it, or find an entirely different source if possible. The risk of serious illness from decomposition products exceeds typical bacteria risks, warranting extra caution and thorough purification. Death feeds life in nature's cycle, but that cycle includes organisms that sicken humans as mere side effect of their own survival strategies. Wave action on shorelines aerates water, similar to flowing streams, creating oxygen-rich conditions that limit some types of bacterial growth. However, waves also stir up sediment and can bring in marine life, algae, and other contaminants that complicate purification. Coastal freshwater sources should be sought inland from where waves break, in calmer collection points that benefit from filtration without constant disturbance. Energy dissipates as waves travel from deep water to shore. Find where that energy settles into stillness. Moisture from breath can be captured by breathing through cloth and periodically wringing collected condensation into a container, though this yields minimal water and isn't practical for significant hydration. It demonstrates the principle that water exists everywhere in your environment, even in the air you exhale, waiting to be captured through the right technique. This knowledge comforts more than it practically aids, reminding you that scarcity is often about access rather than absolute absence. You're rarely as far from water as desperation suggests. Tree moss growing on the shaded north side of trees in northern hemisphere locations, or south side in southern hemisphere, often retains more moisture than sun-exposed sides. While not a direct water source, this observation helps you locate general moisture patterns in forest environments, guiding you toward damper areas where water is more likely to be found. Moss is an indicator species, speaking volumes about humidity and shade to those trained to read its presence. Nature's signposts require no words, only observation and interpretation. Water procurement planning means calculating your needs based on activity level, temperature, and duration, then doubling that estimate to account for unexpected delays or increased consumption. Optimism kills in wilderness when it leads to insufficient preparation. Pessimistic overestimation keeps you alive. Carrying extra water weight is uncomfortable. Dying of dehydration is permanent. Choose discomfort over danger every time, and you'll accumulate survival successes rather than becoming a cautionary tale. Hope for the best, but plan as if Murphy's Law is a fundamental force of nature. You are dissolving now into sleep like salt into water, losing definition, becoming part of something larger and more peaceful than your individual awareness. The words continue their gentle pattern, but you're barely conscious of them, floating somewhere between hearing and dreaming, between waking and that deep rest your body craves. Let go completely. There's nothing left to hold on to, nothing requiring your attention. Only rest remains, only peace, only the soft darkness that embraces you now. Solar radiation increases water's evaporation rate exponentially, meaning afternoon collection may yield less from the same source than morning gathering, as sun has depleted the resource throughout the day. Time your collection trips for early morning when pools are fullest and before heat begins its daily theft. Competition with physics is one you'll always lose. So work with natural cycles rather than against them. The sun gives life, but also takes water. Understanding this duality helps you harvest abundance before scarcity arrives. Water clarity doesn't guarantee safety, as even crystal clear streams can harbour cryptosporidium and other parasites invisible to naked eyes. Conversely, murky water, while less appealing, may be perfectly safe after proper filtration and purification. Train yourself to distrust appearances, relying instead on treatment protocols that address invisible threats. What you cannot see can still harm you, making systematic purification more important than aesthetic judgment. Beauty and danger wear each other's masks in wilderness. Wisdom means removing all masks through proper treatment. Hydration status can be monitored through urine colour. Pale yellow indicates good hydration, while dark amber signals dehydration requiring immediate water intake. This simple biological feedback mechanism works universally, requiring no equipment or expertise to interpret. Your body communicates constantly. Learning its language transforms vague unease into specific, actionable information. Listen to what your biology broadcasts and respond before whispers become shouts. Water found inside fresh-cut bamboo segments is often sterile, having been sealed inside the plant's compartments away from external contamination, making it one of the safest natural sources. The hollow chambers protect their contents like natural bottles, preserving purity through simple physical isolation. Not all bamboo contains water, and dry climates produce dry bamboo, but in appropriate environments this resource represents a best-case scenario for wilderness hydration. Nature occasionally offers gifts wrapped in green tubes, requiring only knowledge and a cutting tool to open. Precipitation patterns vary dramatically by microclimate, with windward slopes receiving significantly more rainfall than leeward slopes just miles away, affecting both immediate collection and long-term water source location. Understanding topography's influence on weather helps you position yourself favourably, choosing campsites and travel routes that maximize access to water. Mountains create their own weather, wringing moisture from passing clouds on one side, while creating rain shadows on the other. Position yourself on the wet side when possible, and scarcity becomes abundance through simple geographic awareness. Glacial melt streams run cleanest in early morning before day's warmth increases melt rate and stirs sediment from the glacier's base. The clearest water flows in the coldest hours before turbidity increases with volume. This daily cycle of clarity offers a collection window for those willing to work in pre-dawn cold, trading comfort for quality. Timing synchronizes with nature's rhythms to harvest optimal resources, a principle extending far beyond water to encompass all wilderness provision. Water storage in natural depressions should be protected from contamination by covering openings with bark, leaves, or cloth to prevent insects, debris, and animals from fouling your carefully collected supply. Even a few hours of exposure can transform clean water into breeding ground for mosquitoes or repository for wind-blown contaminants. Protection is preservation, and preservation extends the value of every drop you've worked to gather. What you save today sustains you tomorrow, but only if you guard it properly against the countless small invasions that accumulate into unusability. Desert survival wisdom teaches that finding water often matters less than conserving the water already in your body through shade seeking, minimal exertion during peak heat, and breathing through your nose rather than mouth. Prevention of water loss equals collection in its survival value, making behavioral adaptation as crucial as procurement skills. Reduce demand and supply stretches further, a mathematical truth applicable far beyond hydration. Your body is a vessel. Treating it as precious cargo to be preserved makes every resource last longer. Seasonal water sources appear during specific times of year. Spring snowmelt creates temporary streams. Summer monsoons fill desert tanks. Autumn rains replenish dried pools. Understanding these patterns helps you plan travel and establishes realistic expectations for what you'll find when. Nature operates on schedules written in orbital mechanics and atmospheric physics. Aligning your needs with these calendars transforms randomness into predictability, The Earth gives generously, but according to its own timeline, not yours. Rock shelters and overhangs often feature seeps where groundwater emerges at geological boundaries, creating year-round water sources in otherwise dry terrain. Ancient peoples established camps near these reliable sources, leaving behind evidence of long habitation wherever water persistently appears. Following archaeological principles, where humans thrived historically, water existed dependably, can guide modern survivors to proven sources. History and geology intersect at these seeps, both pointing towards sustenance. Water found in limestone caves has often travelled through extensive underground systems, dissolving minerals and creating unique chemistry. While usually safe from biological contamination due to filtration through rock, mineral content may be high, affecting taste and potentially causing mild digestive upset until your system adapts. Cave water emerges from Earth's deep memory, carrying dissolved stone in liquid form. What took millennia to filter may taste strange to tongues accustomed to surface water, but strange doesn't mean unsafe. Hygroscopic materials like salt, sugar, or certain chemicals absorb moisture from air and can indicate humidity levels, though they're not practical for water collection in survival scenarios. This property matters more for understanding condensation potential and planning collection systems that harness atmospheric moisture. Knowledge of chemistry informs strategy, even when you can't directly apply chemical principles. Understanding why dew forms helps you predict where and when. Turning theory into practical collection timing. Water requirements increase at altitude due to enhanced respiration and lower humidity, meaning mountain survival demands more liquid intake than lowland survival despite cooler temperatures. Altitude sickness itself often includes dehydration as a component, creating a vicious cycle where reduced thirst sensation occurs precisely when increased intake is most needed. The body sometimes lies about its needs, suppressing accurate signals when environmental stressors override normal regulatory systems. Conscious discipline overrides confused biology in these scenarios. Monsoon patterns in tropical and subtropical regions create predictable wet seasons alternating with dry periods, establishing rhythms that local ecosystems and human settlements have adapted to for millennia. Planning travel and activities around these patterns reflects wisdom rather than cowardice. Working with nature's schedule instead of pretending weather bends to human will. The rains come when they come. Being ready when they arrive makes all the difference between abundance and missed opportunity. You have travelled so far into relaxation that returning to wakefulness seems almost impossible now, like swimming up from the ocean floor toward a surface you can barely remember. Your limbs are heavy as waterlogged wood, your thoughts scattered as morning mist, your awareness dimming like lantern light running low on oil. Sleep reaches up to claim you, and you offer no resistance, only grateful surrender to rest's embrace. Water from artesian sources emerges under natural pressure, often slightly warmer than surface temperature, and rich in dissolved minerals that give it distinctive taste. These sources have travelled deep underground, sometimes for decades or centuries, emerging through cracks and fissures in ways that seem almost magical. Geology creates fountains that flow without pumping, gifts from the Earth's patient circulation system, where pressure builds sufficient force. water finds its way upward, seeking equilibrium with the surface world. Floodplains and river valleys that appear dry may contain accessible water just beneath the surface, as the water table remains high even when surface flow has ceased. Riverbeds remember their history, and that memory persists in saturated soil and gravel banks that yield moisture to patient excavation. Dig where water once flowed, and you often find water still waiting just below visibility. The land holds memory in its soils, and water writes that memory in persistent dampness. Epiphytic plants in rainforest canopies collect water in their overlapping leaves, creating aerial reservoirs high above ground level. Bromeliads particularly excel at this, channeling rain into central pools that can hold a litre or more. Climbing to access these sources requires effort and carries risk, but the water they contain is often remarkably clean, filtered by the plant and protected from ground level contamination. The canopy is a different world, where water pools in living cups between earth and sky. Water testing through observation means checking for signs of recent animal use. Fresh tracks, droppings, disturbed vegetation around the edge, which indicates the source is being regularly visited and likely reliable. Animals won't repeatedly return to water that makes them sick, though their tolerance differs from human sensitivity. Wildlife serves as continuous water quality monitors, testing every source through their own consumption. Read these biological reviews before you drink, though always with the understanding that animal safe doesn't guarantee human safe. Low-lying fog that rolls through valleys and coastal areas contains moisture that can be harvested even without unspecialized equipment, simply by hanging absorbent fabrics that collect condensation as fog passes through. The moisture weight eventually overcomes surface tension and drips downward into collection vessels positioned beneath. This method sustained communities in coastal Chile before modern water infrastructure, proving that ancient techniques remain relevant in survival contexts. Fog is cloud at ground level, and clouds are made of water waiting to be collected. Spring development, the practice of excavating around natural seeps to increase flow and create accessible collection points, has been practiced for thousands of years and remains valuable in survival situations. Carefully dig away soil and debris around the seep, creating a small pool that allows sediment to settle while clean water flows from the source. This improvement transforms a marginal source into a reliable supply, applying basic engineering to natural hydrology. Work with water's natural emergence rather than fighting it, and your efforts are multiplied by the Earth's own pressure and flow. Water from natural springs sometimes emerges at different temperatures in the same area, indicating different source depths and travel paths through underground strata. Cooler springs suggest deeper sources and longer underground residence, while warmer springs indicate shallower paths or geothermal influence. Temperature tells the water's autobiography, where it came from, how long it journeyed, what rocks it touched along the way. Every property contains information for those trained to interpret it. Vegetation mapping reveals moisture patterns across landscapes, with specific plant communities indicating different water table depths and soil saturation levels. Willows and cottonwood signal shallow water tables, while desert succulents suggest deep or sparse water requiring specialized adaptations. Learning plant hydrology transforms every landscape into a legible map where water's presence and depth are written in green ink. The plants have already done the prospecting. You need only read their findings. Water discipline during rationing includes avoiding alcohol, caffeine, and high-protein foods that increase water requirements for processing and elimination. These substances are diuretics or require significant fluid for metabolism, creating net water loss despite providing calories or pleasure. Survival sometimes means denying comfort in favor of conservation, choosing bland hydration over flavorful dehydration. Discipline tastes worse than coffee but sustains life more reliably. Your mind is an empty vessel now, a cup with no bottom, holding nothing, needing nothing. Awareness flickers like a candle in wind, uncertain whether to persist or surrender. Sleep's gravity pulls irresistibly, and resistance has become impossible, unthinkable. You are already dreaming, already gone, already resting in that deep place where recovery happens and tomorrow's strength is born. The water cycle itself, evaporation, condensation, precipitation, collection, and runoff, represents the largest survival system on Earth, constantly purifying and redistributing water across all environments. Understanding this cycle helps you anticipate where water will appear next, predicting rather than merely reacting. You're not finding water so much as intercepting it during one phase of its endless journey from ocean to cloud, to rain to river, to ocean again. Position yourself along water's path, and you need not chase it. Water's weight, approximately 8 pounds per gallon, becomes a crucial planning factor when deciding how much to carry versus how frequently to resupply. The strongest person can carry only so much weight so far, making the calculus of distance between sources critical to route planning. Sometimes water is so scarce that carrying maximum weight makes sense. Other times, frequent light resupply beats infrequent heavy hauling. Survival is mathematics applied to biology and geography, calculating optimal solutions to deadly problems. Emergency water from questionable sources can be made safer through the combination of multiple treatment methods: filtering followed by chemical treatment, followed by boiling creates redundant safety that catches what any single method might miss. Redundancy saves lives when individual systems fail or prove inadequate against specific threats. 3 mediocre filters provide more protection than 1 excellent filter, and combining different purification approaches addresses different categories of contamination. Defense in depth applies to water treatment as surely as to military strategy. The psychological comfort of knowing water location cannot be understated, even if you're adequately hydrated. Knowing where the next source lies reduces stress and improves decision-making throughout your survival experience. Confidence comes from knowledge, and knowledge comes from observation, planning, and understanding natural systems. Mental peace conserves energy that anxiety and uncertainty would otherwise burn wastefully. Your mind, when calm, becomes an asset. When panicked, it becomes a liability, consuming resources you cannot spare. Water sources near human habitation or agriculture carry heightened risk of chemical contamination from pesticides, fertilizers, and waste runoff that biological purification methods don't address. In wilderness survival, paradoxically, the presence of civilization nearby may make water less safe rather than more. Distance from human activity often correlates with water purity, though not always. The fingerprints of industry and agriculture persist in watersheds long after the activity itself has ceased or moved elsewhere. Final water sources before entering dry areas should be maximised. Drink fully, fill all containers, soak clothing if appropriate, and take advantage of the resource while available. This loading strategy builds internal reserves and external supplies to carry you through scarcity ahead. The oasis before the desert demands full exploitation, storing in your body what cannot be stored in additional containers. You become your own camel, though less efficient at the task. And now, dear traveller, as we approach the end of our journey through water wisdom, feel yourself sinking into the deepest rest, knowing that you carry within you now the knowledge of finding life's most essential element. These facts have woven themselves into your subconscious, becoming part of your survival instinct, accessible when needed but requiring no conscious effort to retain. Like water finding its level, like rain returning to earth, you return now to sleep, to peace, to the restoration that darkness and dreams provide. Your breath is the tide, rising and falling with ancient rhythm. Your heartbeat is rain on distant mountains. Your body is a landscape holding water, cycling it, using it, being it. You are water finding temporary form, and in sleep you remember this, returning to the flow that connects all living things. Rest now, dream of springs and streams, of morning dew and evening rain. Let water's wisdom carry you through the night, and wake refreshed, renewed, knowing what you need to know. The wilderness calls to all of us eventually, and when it calls to you, you'll be ready. Until then, sleep deeply, peacefully, completely. You've earned this rest, and the night holds you gently in its keeping. Breathe, release, sleep. The journey is complete.